So everything's on the table. The president using a lot of misdirection to keep the gay Ayatollah guessing. And even Wall Street, who took it on the chin in March, is on board. Here's Jamie Dimon.
They've been killing people around the world for 45 plus years. They've killed a lot of Americans. They funded not just Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. They have terrorist cells here. They were about to get their ballistic missiles. Does it create all this uncertainty? Absolutely. Does it create more short-term risk with the oil prices? Absolutely. I'm praying it ends well. But having those folks their throat on the Straits of Hormuz and funding all these proxy wars, why the Western world put up these proxy wars for 45 years, is kind of beyond me.
The only ones not on board? The Europeans. The Brits say they're only sending in the Royal Navy when the hostilities are over.
Whatever the pressure on me and others, whatever the noise, I'm going to act in the British national interest in all the decisions that I make. And that's why I've been absolutely clear that this is not our war, and we're not going to get dragged into it. Trump
dismissed the prime minister, saying, he says, I'm not going to tell him what to do. He can do whatever he wants. Doesn't matter. All Starmer wants is costly windmills that are driving your energy prices through the roof. The Germans said, it's not our war. The French won't let us use their airspace. And the Italians and Spanish are being a little persnickety with their bases. So we've saved the continent from 2 world wars, bailed them out with the Marshall Plan, armed Ukraine, and now we can't use a base that we paid for while we're finishing off the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and opening up a strait where the Europeans get a quarter of their oil and we get nothing. Rubio's starting to ask questions.
Why are we in NATO? You have to ask that question. Why do we have billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, over the years, trillions of dollars, and all these American forces stationed in the region if we can only use, in our time of need, we're not going to be allowed to use those bases?
The president's thinking twice about NATO, too. He says he's considering leaving it. And tonight, Trump's expected to blast them in prime time, saying, quote, I'll be discussing my disgust with NATO. They haven't been friends when we needed them. We never asked them for much. It's a one-way street.
Well, I may have a plan or I may not, but how would I ever say that to a reporter? If I said that to a reporter, Marco would say, please, sir, let's bring you over to the helicopter immediately. Right? I can't tell you that. It's certainly a place that's people are talking about, but I can't say. Yeah.
The war was militarily.
We have in our hemisphere a regime operated by an indicted narco trafficker that became a base of operation for virtually every competitor, adversary, and enemy in the world. It was, for Iran, their primary spot of operation in the Western Hemisphere was Venezuela. For Russia, their primary base of operation in the Western Hemisphere, along Cuba and Nicaragua, was Venezuela. In the case of China, China was receiving oil at a huge, about $20 a barrel discount, and they weren't even paying money for it. It was being used to pay down debt that they were owed. This is the oil of the people of Venezuela, and it was being given to the Chinese as barter at a 20%, at a $20 discount per barrel in some cases. And so you had basically 3 of our primary opponents in the world operating from our hemisphere from that spot.
U.S. President Donald Trump hosted Latin American leaders in Florida on Saturday to announce the formation of a military coalition against drug cartels.
The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks once and for all. We'll get rid of them.
At least a dozen.
In this context and in pursuit of peace is necessary.
Our military is the greatest in the world, with the greatest equipment and the greatest people in the world. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.